What's going on, guys? This is the German Bear Podcast, and welcome to the first ever episode on this channel. My name is Max. I'm your host of this podcast. I'm from Germany. I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan, and this channel will be all about the Chicago Bears and all news, all draft analysis, game previews, game reviews, all you want. I just love talking football and share my opinions with you guys, so I hope we have an exciting time. And let's get right into the first podcast ever, which will be about the Chicago Bears. Coaching changes that just happened lately, some news, and yeah, let's just talk about it. So, first of all, obviously, Matt Eberflus, Coach Flus, got hired just 1 to 2 weeks back now, and first of all, I want to talk about his press conference and a new GM's press conference, Ryan Poles. Just how those guys performed in this press conference, because it's the first look we get at them, and I think they did pretty well. So let's start off with Ryan Poles. First of all, what a great story. My opinion on him, I love the hire. Just comes from a winning culture that built through the draft, that built through free agency, that just was consistent at keeping up the high level. And I just love that in the first half. And second half, we have now a guy that just comes full circle. He played offensive line, a position that we desperately need. We all know that. And he just comes in 2009 as an undrafted free agent to the Chicago Bears as an O-lineman and fails. He doesn't make the final roster cut. And now everything comes full circle. Now he's the freaking GM and he is in power of the whole roster. So that's a great story itself. But for the guy, he is so soft-spoken and you just feel the energy he brings with him. Like, you know the quote, "We will take the North and never give it back." I love that attitude. Also, him almost crying, bursting out into tears in the press conference. That was just so natural and real. You just believe him. And the idea he has from the Chicago Bears is just the idea we need to. Building through the draft and being selective in free agency, considering age, speed, athleticism. I just love that. But that's enough about Ryan Poles. I guess you guys heard enough of him. But let's get into the big stuff, into the coaching staff, the guys that will lead our team next season. Matt Eberflus, Coach Flus. First of all, I love the hire. Great selection by Ryan. I think Matt Eberflus was definitely the best guy available. Let me tell you why. First of all, he had a great press conference. You always want a head coach that is a leader, and in this press conference, I think he really expressed that he has the ability to lead this football team at the highest level. He already talked to Justin, even though he's a defensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator background, because everybody's always like, oh, we need an OC. We need a OC as a head coach. He's way more focused on Justin. Look at him, man. He already talked to Justin. He's always in contact with him already. And I just love that. But I will dive deeper into why having a DC as a head coach is perfect. But like I just said, he just seems like a natural leader. I like what we have in him. So why was the hire of Matt Eberflus good? First of all, he led an amazing Colts defense. He took over a super bad Colts D and turned them into a top 10 defense, top 10 unit every single year he's been to DC there. Second of all, he has such a high reputation. Before the Colts, he was linebackers coach at Dallas from 2011 till 2018. That's a long period of time. I think even 2019, excuse me. And in 2019, in addition to being the linebackers coach, which Dallas always had great linebackers, Sean Lee, Leighton Vander Esch, like Jalen Smith, before he kind of busted. That was great. Also, him just also being in 2019 the passing game coordinator. He has an offensive background. He can teach Justin defensive coverages, how to read them. Like, this is a great aspect of having him in here. Also, he brings in a 4-3 defense. 4-3 defense in Chicago has been, under the Lovie Smith era, a very, very beloved thing, and I'm just so glad we got back to it. That means now Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack are back to their natural positions, back to hand in the dirt defensive ends. Khalil Mack just won a Defensive Player of the Year award playing that position. I'm just excited for that. That gives us one more defensive lineman on the D-line to stuff the run, which is also great. Obviously, you don't run these packages all the time in the NFL nowadays. Nowadays, there's a lot of nickel, dime, extra safety on the field, extra cornerback on the field, but you still see 4-3 and 3-4 being played on rundowns, and it's just great changing the system and bringing new wind into Chicago. So, what is the plus of having a DC as the head coach, or just Matt Eberflus as the head coach? Not certainly because he's a DC, but why him? First of all, a head coach, like I mentioned before, needs to be a leader. And a head coach looks over everything. Like, he's not only focusing on defense. Obviously, he has a special eye on defense because he's a defensive guy. But he has to concentrate on so many stuff. Acquiring players, doing, like, game plans, doing, preparing for practices, speaking to the team. All this kinds of stuff. And you need a guy that really can handle this situation. We don't know yet if Coach Flus can do this, but I really think he will. Second of all, I love that he declined to call the defensive plays, or that he said, I won't call the plays on defense. That will be the defensive coordinator's job. So he already just confirmed that he will be like that guy, that leader that doesn't focus on offense or defense too much. So this will be the defensive coordinator's role. Also, why shouldn't he care about Fields? Like, the aspect of him being a DC doesn't mean he doesn't care about offense at all. And he brings a lot of experience, and the stuff he has brought in for now looks pretty amazing. So that's about it about Coach Flus. I love what he has brought in to this day, and I think we're set off pretty nicely. Obviously, you got to wait until the season, but the confidence in him is pretty high from my side. So, before we go into staff changes, I wanted to talk about the front office changes. The Bears just hired Ian Cunningham, ex-director of player personnel of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021. He has 14 seasons of experience. He was the assistant of player personnel and the director of college scouting before in Philly. And his stations before were on, and the station before the Eagles was on the Ravens. So, what I love about him, he brought in great guys. The Eagles organization obviously is in a downward spiral the last couple of years since the Super Bowl victory. But I think they still brought in, through the draft, great young players. Also, Cunningham has, like Poles, an offensive line background. So, building that O-line connection already, I love it. We need to improve the O-line. And, I think the Eagles did a very good job of acquiring young players. And also, he is a guy that has Super Bowl winning experience, just like Ryan Poles. He won the Super Bowl in 2012 with the Ravens and in 2017 with the Eagles. So just another experienced guy for the front office that will give his input and will help to build this young roster and improve it. Just love that. So now to the important part, the new staff changes. First of all of the 2021 staff is finally gone. Like, I kind of miss the wide receivers coach. I'm kind of missing the name right now. Just give me a second. But still, we got rid of all the coaching staff members of the Matt Nagy era. So it's really just a complete fresh start of the Chicago Bears, which is a good thing to see. Mike Fury. he was the wide receivers coach. Like, he seemed always like a cool guy, pumped up on the sideline, being happy for his receivers. That's unfortunate. And it's also big to lose Chris Tabor. He was already signed by Carolina, so good to see him get a new job, but all of the rest is gone now. So let's look into the future. Who's new? Offensively, offensive line coach Chris Morgan. He was on the Steelers last season. Not great, to be honest. And from 2015 till 2020 on Atlanta Falcons, a team that was solid, made the Super Bowl, had the best offense in 2016. But obviously the Steelers, when kind of lights a bad light on him. Is that something you can say? I don't know. But still, we will have to wait and see how the O-line will improve with him being hired. He coached some good guys. Jake Matthews on the Falcons, Alex Mack, Ryan Schrader. Solid guys, Alex Mack especially. Pro Bowl guy, All-Pro. Great center, one of the greatest centers the last decade. But yeah, with the O-line coach, we just have to wait and see. There's not a lot of input that we can generate off of these things. So now to the biggest point, the point I've wanted to talk about so badly, the new OC. Obviously, Eberflus, great addition, but the OC will probably be the most important guy to the Chicago Bears' future right now, because we got Justin Fields, in my opinion, the franchise quarterback. I love what I've seen from him in year one, but now it's time to develop him in year two. And the guy to do it, the guy Eberflus chose was Luke Getz, Packers pass game coordinator and QB coach from the last couple of years. So let's take a deeper dive into what Luke Getz will bring to the Bears and who he is. He was, like I said, the Packers pass game coordinator and QB coach. He was named that in 2020 and was it also last season. So for 2 years, he has been the pass game coordinator and QB coach. Obviously, he coached Aaron Rodgers, which is an influence, but he also coached Jordan Love, a guy that needed to be developed. Obviously, Rodgers didn't have to be. Also, his experience with the Packers. 2014, offensive quality control coach, and promoted to wide receivers coach in 2016. Talking about a receiver resume later on. So, what did he achieve? The last 2 years, the Packers' offense was probably the most dominant offense in the whole league. Aaron Rodgers won MVP, might win it this year or last year again, 2 times in a row, and this guy was the pass game coordinator and QB's coach. Obviously, he didn't call the plays, but you got to take a shot. OC starts somewhere. Play calling needs to be started somewhere. And I like the chance of getting a guy who led the best offense or who created the plays for the best offense the last 2 seasons. I love this hire. I love this hire so much. And I think this will be, he will be the best fit, or he is the best fit to develop Justin Fields. So what a great hire from Coach Flus, man. So, back to the stats. In 2020, he guided an offense that led the league in scoring 31.8 points per game. We can probably count on one hand how many 30-plus point games we had with the Bears. Also, he set an NFL record, not him, but the offense set an NFL record for red zone touchdown percentage in 2020, 80%, number 1 in the NFL since 1981. And guess what the Bears desperately need? O-line help and red zone scoring ability. We couldn't score to save our lives last year. It was horrible to watch. We just couldn't punch the ball in. Just as simple as it is. And they led in red zone touchdown percentage with 80%, and posted the team's highest third down percentage since 1970, 49.44%. It's 50% third down completion percentage. This is amazing. Like, from an experience standpoint and what Luke Getz witnessed on offense and what he also created by himself in some parts, that's ultimately what the Bears need to improve on. Red zone scoring ability and third down conversions. That's why you should love this hire alone. Also, he has offensive coordinator background, wide receiver coach background at Mississippi State in 2018. He helped them to rank number 2 in the Southeast East Conference in rushing offense and yards per carry. Great. We want to involve run game. Obviously, it's college. That's different from the NFL. But David Montgomery needs to get the ball more. And hopefully, just like this says, he will improve the running game. And now to the wide receivers part. He was a wide receivers coach on the Packers, like I've mentioned, since 2016, from 2016 till 2019. Don't let me lie. And he coached Devontae Adams in 2016 till 17. He was the only player in the NFL to have 70-plus receptions and 10-plus receiving touchdowns in both of those seasons. Also, Jordy Nelson won Comeback Player of the Year in 2016, with leading the team in all 3 receiving categories: receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And guess who was the wide receivers coach? Luke Getz. Obviously, all those things have to do with Aaron Rodgers and his ability to just be good. And yeah, I'm hoping he's gone, obviously, but still, coaches have their impact. And just seeing all those things about Luke Getz just makes it better and better. The more you read about him, the more you love him. And I just think Chicago find the right guy for the job. I've also liked the addition of Pep Hamilton in the interview circle, but Luke Getz, man, like I said, the more I read into him, the more I love him. Moving on to the defense. The Bears now also have a new defensive coordinator, Alan Williams. He will call the plays. Like Matt Eberflus said, the DC will call the plays. And this guy has 29 years of experience, and 20 of them coaching in the NFL. He was a safeties coach for the Colts on Eberflus's staff, obviously, and he helped to maintain a top 10 defense since Eberflus and his staff arrived in Indy. And being a safeties coach gives me some kind of hope for Eddie Jackson to have a career revival. Eddie Jackson is a great guy, and I would love to see him play like 2017 even again. 2018 is a high standard, but man, it would be amazing to see Eddie Jackson back on an all-pro level. And if someone can do that, it's a DC with a safeties background that knows how to get these guys in great positions. And I think Alan Williams is a home run hire for the defense. In Indy, they led a defense that was a turnover machine. They were in the top, 10s for turnovers. And I just hope Eddie Jackson comes back to Old Ford, man. He deserves it. He had some tough years, and I just hope he gets a revival. And also, to add, before he was in Indy, the cornerbacks and safeties coach in Detroit. Now you're thinking, oh no, Detroit. But let's see who Detroit had in this time. Darius Slay, a great cornerback. He is a beast. And Alan Williams coached him. And I just like his repertoire, what he brings to the table. And I'm just excited. Like, all these hires, maybe besides Chris Morgan, seem like home run hitters. Continuing. The last two additions for today's show, Bears hire former Colts linebackers coach Dave Berganzi. Like, if you look at the Colts linebackers, you got to point at Darius Leonard. And he is an all-pro. He's not better than Roquan. So Berganzi now has the best linebacker in the NFL to work with. And I like what they developed out of the Colts linebackers. And I'm excited what he brings to Chicago. And lastly, James Rowe, Colts DB's coach. All I've heard from him was great things. He developed a great cornerback room in Indy, and just hopefully he does that in Chicago as well. And talking about DBs and other potential additions, the next episode of the German Bear podcast will actually be about free agency, the Bears' needs in free agency, and some potential candidates that I would love to see them bring in. So stay tuned for that. But James Rowe, great hire. Dave Berganzi, great hire. Alan Williams, home run. Luke Getz, hopefully a home run. But I think he will be. O-line coach Chris Morgan and Ian Cunningham for the front office. So that's all the Bears changes that appeared the last couple of days. I'm excited for the future. I can't wait to see these young, talented players we all have. Mooney, Fields, Roquan, Jalen Johnson. The list goes on and on. How they play under these coaches. And the offseason moves. This will be a big thing. So, thank you very much for tuning in into the first ever episode of the German Bear podcast. I'm just excited for this journey, and we will see us in the next episode when we talk about free agency and the Bears' needs. So stay tuned, guys, and bear down.